Welcome to my top 5. In this episode, we're looking at the top 5 best drivers of all time. And to kick off that list, we have number 5, Nigel Mansell. A legend in his native England, Nigel Mansell won both Formula One World Championships in 1992 and the kart IndyCar World Series in 1993. He was the reigning F1 championship when he moved to kart, becoming the first person to win the kart title in his debut season and making him the only person to hold both titles simultaneously. Equally impressive is the fact that Nigel Mansell's career in Formula One racing lasted 15 seasons, with his final 2 seasons spent in the kart series. Mansell is 7th overall in the Formula One race winners list. He held the record for the most number of poles set in a single season, which was broken in 2011. Since his retirement, Nigel Mansell has been named one of the top 5 Formula One drivers of all time. In 2005, Nigel Mansell came out of retirement to race in the Grand Prix Masters Series, and he won the championship. He was inducted into the International Motorsport Hall of Fame later that year. Moving on, we have number 4. This is Ayrton Senna. The Brazilian race car legend won 3 Formula One World Championships before he was killed on track while leading the 1994 San Marino Grand Prix. During his career, Senna was one of the most dominating and successful Formula One drivers of the modern era. He is considered by many race enthusiasts as one of the greatest drivers of all time. Sadly, he is the most recent driver to be killed in one of the Formula One World Championship events. Ayrton Senna made his Formula One debut in 1984 and won 6 Grand Prix races in his first 3 seasons as a driver. In 1988, he won all but one of the 16 Grand Prix events and accomplished his first World Championship. He won his 2nd and 3rd championship in 1990 and 1991. His rivalry with Alain Prost during this period dominated global motorsports. He is the 3rd most successful driver of all time in terms of race wins. Up next is number 3, Dale Earnhardt. The Intimidator, as he was known, represents for many race car fans as the pinnacle of excellence. The premier NASCAR driver of his era, Dale Earnhardt started his legendary career in 1975 at the World 600, which was held at the Charlotte Motor Speedway and is a part of the Winston Cup Series, today the Sprint Cup Series. For there, Dale Earnhardt won a total of 77 Winston Cup races, including 1 Daytona 500 victory in 1998. He also earned 7 NASCAR Winston Cup championships, tied for the most of all time with Richard Petty. His aggressive, some claim dangerous driving style earned him the nickname the Intimidator. Sadly, Dale Earnhardt was killed on February 18th of 2001 at the Daytona International Speedway while competing in his beloved Daytona 500. Involved in a crash on the very last lap of the race, Earnhardt died of a skull fracture. He has since been inducted into numerous halls of fame, including the very first class of the NASCAR Hall of Fame, a fitting tribute to the man who helped to popularize the sport of NASCAR. Getting down to our last 2, and number 2 is Michael Schumacher. The German race car driver is a 7-time Formula One world champion. Michael Schumacher is regarded as one of the greatest Formula One drivers in history and the most successful of the modern day era. He was named the Rue World Sportsman of the Year twice and holds many F1 records, including most championships, race victories, fastest laps, pole positions, and most races won in a single season. In 2002, Michael Schumacher became the only driver in F1 history to finish in the top 3 in every race of the season and broke the record for the most consecutive podium finishes. According to the official Formula One website, Michael Schumacher is statistically the greatest driver the sport has ever seen. Sadly, in December 2013, Michael Schumacher suffered a serious head injury while skiing. Doctors put him in a medically induced coma, telling the world's media that he has suffered a traumatic brain injury. He was in the coma for nearly 7 months until June 2014. Michael Schumacher is now paralyzed and in a wheelchair, bringing a sad end to his illustrious driving career. And the number 1 race car driver of all time is Mario Andretti. The Italian-American race car legend who transcended motorsport, a household name all over the world. Mario Andretti is one of the only 2 drivers to win races in Formula One, IndyCar, World Sports Car Championships, and the NASCAR. He has also won races in midget cars and sprint cars. During his illustrious career, Mario Andretti won the 1978 Formula One World Championship and 4 IndyCar titles. To date, he remains the only driver to ever win the Indianapolis 500, the Daytona 500, and the Formula One World Championship, and the only driver to have won a race in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, Formula One, and the Indianapolis 500. Mario Andretti remains the last American to have won a Formula One race car victory back in 1978 at the Dutch Grand Prix. If all these championships weren't enough, Mario Andretti is also the only person to be named United States Driver of the Year in 3 separate decades. He was also one of the only 3 drivers to ever win races on the road courses, paved ovals, and dirt tracks in one season, a feat that he's accomplished 4 different times. For all these feats, Mario Andretti is considered the definitive race car driver by most historians and critics. As an athlete, he dominated motorsports the way that Michael Jordan dominated basketball and Wayne Gretzky dominated hockey. The name Mario Andretti is synonymous with excellence on a racetrack, any racetrack. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for my next Top 5 episode.